My fellow Americans, it is time to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it into the wind.
And the fact is that, geoengineering is real. It's something that the US government has acknowledged for a long time. Solar radiation modification, stratospheric aerosol injection, marine cloud brightening, weather modification, cloud seeding. Some of this stuff has a history that's going back many decades.
You're sitting there telling us, yes, in fact, the government has attempted to, and in many cases has, manipulated weather patterns and is in the active process of doing so. Why would the government ever allow any weather modification?
Proponents believe that we should be combating global warming by deflecting sun rays off of the earth, that we should be using clouds to be able to make sure that we're not getting heated here at Earth's surface. And then there are others who are just interested in the science and the research. And again, what you decide to do inside of a lab, inside of a university that is controlled is one thing, but starting to experiment by releasing sulfur dioxide out into the environment and just telling the American, giving the middle finger to the American public and the U.S. government and saying, we're just going to do it anyway, you can't stop us. That's something that we all should have a problem with. Arguments have been made to combat droughts, to help with keeping farms and agriculture receiving the precipitation that is believed to be needed to keep the crops growing. They feel that it's a good thing to pursue that cloud seeding. Again, I'm just answering your question as to the arguments that I have heard in favor of it as far as my positions and what we have heard as far as concerns here at the agency. Everything is down there at the website to sum up the concerns that we have.
You serve with Robert Kennedy Jr., who spent his entire, many decades of his young life fighting against toxins and poisons being pumped into our water supply, which I think every human in this country of sound mind agrees that's terrible. We don't want our kids to be drinking toxic water, obviously. But it seems as though there is like free range in order to do that into the atmosphere. And that seems like prima facie wrong, Mr. Administrator.
Yeah, so there's a requirement to notify NOAA when engaging in the activity that one company, Make Sunsets, announced that they were going to be engaging in. There was a notification requirement, but there is a lot of concern over a lack of current authority under current statute to be able to stop these activities if the activities get scaled up. Now, I feel like that is a problem.
Let me immediately dispatch somebody saying, there's nothing here. Oh, really? Here's Operation Mongoose files that we've never seen before, the CIA admitting that they have plans for agricultural sabotage and biological agents using bioweapons to control not only the weather, but also bring about regime change. If they're willing to do this, what won't they do? Well, would you look at that? The introduction of biological agents, which would appear to be natural in origin. Where have I heard that before? Really makes you rethink COVID here. This would produce regime change in another country or in this country. Is that what they did in 2020 with the release of COVID-19? Yes, exactly. That is what they did. It goes into great detail about the overthrow of other governments, using unions like the AFL-CIO, and also using biological warfare. Plans for inducing the failure of crops will be submitted by February 15th. This is Cuba in this instance, but there are other instances where you can see that the CIA is operationally overthrowing governments and using specific tactics. You don't see everything because, well, we have documents that prove how they destroyed all of the evidence, something that makes it very difficult when you're talking about the assassination of an American president, knowing that they had these protocols in place. JFK File, CIA enforced complete document control, no paper trail left at all. Declassification routing slips from the CIA Western Hemisphere Cuba Operational Group shows orders that recipients to destroy cover sheets after review. Reports were classified, reserved for the most sensitive covert actions. The documents then were effectively routed, hand-carried, destroyed No mistakes, no loose ends. Recipients were warned improper filing or unauthorized retention was forbidden. They'd straight up kill you if they found that you were backstabbing them. Ladies and gentlemen, this is, of course, what John F. Kennedy's investigator of the CIA found. Arthur Schlesinger, who's a historian and an intellectual, was tasked with JFK on investigating the CIA, and his warning was that the CIA has grown powerful and reckless, running its own government, a state within a state, he calls it, saying that the CIA has its own military, its own air force. It outnumbers U.S. diplomats. Covert ops are shaping U.S. policy without presidential approval. Iran, Guatemala, Cuba. Failed secret wars that were intended to start World War III. The British intelligence service operates under strict control, but the CIA runs completely and totally unchecked. They can create a world within a world. Kennedy was warned about this in 1961. Kennedy was assassinated in 1963. We've never seen these files before, but they're called the Schlesinger files, a 15-page memo calling for JFK to break up the CIA. And he was planning on doing that in his second term. He wouldn't see that second term, even though he was rocketing through to a guaranteed re-election in 1964. They found somebody to take care of that. They found a CIA agent named Lee Harvey Oswald. Look at this. According to Lee Harvey Oswald's Marine commander in Japan, Harvey Oswald was in the Marines, he's stationed in Japan. The Marine commander said, no, Lee Harvey Oswald was a CIA agent. He was recruited by the CIA while he was working for me in the Marines. Whew, they got to this guy. Shut this down fast, but there's the document. Lee Harvey Oswald was a CIA asset, and that the CIA was warned, along with the State Department, time and time again about what would happen. They were warned that Lee Harvey Oswald was going to assassinate JFK, that Lee Harvey Oswald would himself get killed. 30 and 45 days from these events happening, there are documents here that say, yes, this is what happened. And they ignored it. Boy, it makes you wonder. Kind of like the FBI ignoring President Trump's would-be assassin, Ryan Ralph, when he had illegal firearms, when they were warned of him, when he was behaving like a complete criminal sociopath, doing all these very mysterious actions with foreign governments, just like Oswald. It's almost like they set up a system to fail. And that's really the point here. Check this out. The CIA was watching Lee Harvey Oswald. They have tapes of him. Where are those tapes exactly? Here are the tapes. They were spying on Lee Harvey Oswald, their former agent. This is how Lee Harvey Oswald got to Russia. How do you think Ryan Ralph got to Ukraine all those times? Remember, he kept going to Ukraine even though he's dead broke? Yeah. Lee Harvey Oswald is the same situation. He's a complete loner, a complete loser. But they were surveilling him and his entire family. Photos of him in Red Square. How'd he get to Russia exactly? It's our CIA, man. And Lee Harvey Oswald apparently met Jack Ruby just weeks before the assassination. What did they do? Mr. Lee Harvey Oswald will be killed after he kills Kennedy. Would you look at that? They knew each other. There was no connection. Now there is a connection. That's really strange. Also, what's really strange is, of course, the reactions right after Lee Harvey Oswald was killed. Lee Harvey Oswald constantly told media, when he was allowed to appear before cameras, which was just seconds at a time, that he's a patsy, that he didn't kill Kennedy, that he didn't shoot those shots, that he wasn't the one who was firing in the Texas School Book Depository or anywhere else. We never got to hear the full story. We never got to hear any interviews at all because he was killed. Well, the FBI was really happy about that result. Strange for a law enforcement investigation. Just hours after Jack Ruby killed Lee Harvey Oswald, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover demanded a quick public report to stop conspiracy theories from spreading. Hoover wrote that there is nothing further in the Oswald case except that he is dead. Nothing to see here, right? Yeah. He wanted to ensure the public believed that Oswald acted alone. The memo showed that the FBI was frustrated that Oswald's murder left them without a chance to get more answers. Oh, really? Well, sure doesn't seem that way. The CIA was very nervous about both Italian and Russian reports saying that they killed JFK, doth protest too much, huh? A newly declassified memo reveals the CIA monitored an Italian communist publication that accused the U.S. intelligence agencies of orchestrating the JFK assassination. The Russians, in fact, warned of heightened assassination attempts against JFK in the weeks leading up to it, and lo and behold. It's very strange, isn't it? What's also strange, and this isn't a new document, but it is a document that is getting a lot of publication now, is a secret report about CIA agent and World War II hero Garrett Underhill, who the day after the assassination of John F. Kennedy fled Washington, D.C., saying that he'd uncovered that a CIA splinter group was responsible for the assassination. He did this quite accidentally, but now he's going to be killed by the CIA. And then less than 6 months later, he was found shot in his own apartment, 12 times in the back of the head, and the coroner ruled it a suicide, you see. That's just how these things work. J. Garrett Underhill had been an intelligence agent during World War II. He was a recognized authority on limited warfare and small arms. He's a researcher and a writer on military affairs, first-name basis with many top brass at the Pentagon, deeply respected. He worked with CIA officials, one of the agency's unpeople, who performed special assignments. What I find particularly interesting about that, this is that he was also in league with an arms broker that sold CIA guns, including the famous Carcano-style weapon that was used to kill JFK. Just got to know. You got to know what you got to know, right? The CIA's clandestine operation manual revealed. Document outlines CIA's meticulous profiling systems to gather biographical data, investigative information, and creating detailed dossiers on surveillance targets. This is stuff that they don't want out. This is a good release. This is fascinating stuff. It's very interesting. Double agents. The operational decision authorizing double agents of a foreign power will be coordinated with the counterintelligence staff, though no operational approval or provisional approval is required to create a foreign agent from a foreign power. And let's talk about foreign powers. Because Russia, their deep ties for Oswald to Russia and to Cuba, was that because he was being stationed there? Is this because they were creating a patsy? That's what I assume. They were creating the perfect patsy. Oh, it was the Russians. Oh, it was the Cubans. Don't ask too many questions. Oh, he was radicalized Marxist. Don't ask too many questions. Shut up. He's dead, right? Shut up. Don't ask. How about Israel? CIA assisting Israel in the development of nuclear weapons. Even prior to JFK's administration, JFK's attempts to stop Israel from developing the nuclear bomb was seen as an existential threat to Israel's existence. Yikes. Then when it came to what gets redacted in these documents, the CIA states, the only thing that we actually want redacted is the term Israel, Israeli, and Israeli intelligence. Yikes. CIA has no objections to the declassification or release of information of this document except these words, Israeli intelligence. CIA requested that any mention of Israel be redacted from the JFK files. Israel is literally the only thing that they're requesting be redacted. Okay. So here's what we know. We know that CIA counterintelligence chief James Angleton marked the redaction of Israeli intelligence services in their cooperations with the CIA. Now, the reason for this may not be as nefarious as it seems, or maybe even more nefarious. Here's what we know. That the CIA assisted in Israel getting a nuclear weapon. Now, Israel getting a nuclear weapon, especially just in the decade or two after the creation of the nuclear weapon, is a very scary prospect because you don't want a bunch of nuclear bombs going around the world, and nuclear proliferation is a bad thing. But the CIA helped them smuggle the uranium out of America and into Israel. Processed uranium for the U.S. Navy is alleged to have been smuggled materials into Israel for the development of nuclear weapons starting in 1961. Months before his assassination, Kennedy wrote a strongly worded letter to Israeli Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion demanding international inspections of his nuclear reactors to make sure that they're not creating a nuclear bomb. This followed Kennedy's 1961 directive for American inspections to verify that Israel was not developing nuclear weapons. Israel staged a fake control room and dummy installations to conceal its efforts from American scrutiny. LBJ allowed the Israelis to continue building their nuclear weapon. Kennedy didn't want it for obvious reasons. This is the individual at the CIA who was responsible for the Kennedy assassination. I'm not sure, but certainly responsible for this clandestine nuclear program with the Israelis. Would you kill in order to, because the American president can really make your life a living hell if you're lying to him and if you're trying to create a nuclear weapon. Also, if the CIA, as has been established, is just going behind the back of the president and creating their own policy. The president doesn't want a nation to get a nuclear weapon. The CIA does want it to get a nuclear weapon for whatever reason. And so then you're at odds. Don't you immediately create like the biggest battle of the executive power in our lifetimes? Yes. Oh, absolutely.